Word up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Late Night Live number 49. How's everybody doing tonight? Marilyn, you hear a romantic getaway cottage? Is that what that sound? Or that's what that song reminded you of? I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much for asking. I like this breakdown of all the songs that we're playing before we got started. What up, Jesse? Ooh, I just made my tea, so it's a little too hot. Oh, and I'm just now remembering, earlier today, I was working on a signature, and I thought, you know what you gotta do, Mike? You have to, tonight you should make a thermos. You should fill your thermos, I have a big one, full of hot tea, and then have that by the desk. You can keep refilling your mug bit by bit and have hot tea to drink for the entire stream. Obviously, I forgot until right now. I'm just remembering as I took a sip of my tea. What up, Rose? Oh, Rose is here super early today. Right on. What's going on, Jay? Vivid memory is great, Marilyn. That's a good way to be. I feel the same way. What up, Satvik? And what up, Mush? Woo, and what up, Oja Swinny? Right on. Alright, so I think I'm going to do same thing as I did 2 weeks ago. Last week I got caught up practicing and working on the capital D, but I'm going to try to recreate a few pieces, or at least a piece, maybe, we'll see where we go, from the Business Educator. I posted a few in the Discord. If you have one that is your favorite, let me know, and I'll do that one. I'm going to take a few minutes here and warm up first, though. Has it been I guess, yeah, it's been nearly a year. I mean, not quite, because I started sort of when COVID hit and I was chilling. The first ones were on Instagram. I think just my late night chill out sessions. Oh, I just hit like a knot and that feels really good. I need a massage. Note to self, book yourself a massage. I've been needing a massage for a long time. What are we feeling tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Walnut ink or iron gall ink? I know a lot of people have been talking a whole lot about this on the Discord, and I have both on my desk here because I couldn't make a decision prior to the feed or to the stream. So what do you guys think? Yeah, COVID is still working hard. I can't believe next week is our 50th stream. Oh, Marilyn says walnut, or it says iron gall. Rose says walnut. So far we have a tie. Who's gonna break the tie? Jesse's feeling iron gall. Oh, just when he says both. Mush says iron gall. Satvik also says both. What sounds like, what do we got? What? We have a few boths, but most people are saying iron gall. So let's go iron gall. We'll swirl a little bit of blots here. I still don't have my Walker's ink. I keep saying I'm going to order it, and I keep forgetting to order it. And then I always remember on Tuesday nights, oh yeah, you should order it. And then I never do. What's the difference? Oh, there's a big difference. Technically, the only real difference in the writing experience and everything is one is black, one is brown. One is going to deteriorate and make my nib a little bit rougher, but it really, I mean, that's fine. I have a lot of nibs, and like I mentioned in the Discord earlier yesterday or today, nibs are disposable. They are supposed to, they get messed up and you throw them away. But you will get slightly better hairlines if you're using a good iron gall. There are iron galls out there that I would rather use less than a walnut ink. But blots is a good one. There are many good ones. So today we will go iron gall. What up, Benny? Welcome. How was my birthday? My birthday was pretty chill. I didn't really do much. I spent the day kind of working. I have been slammed is like the wrong word, but my schedule has just been packed lately. There's a lot of things that I've needed to do, and they've kind of gotten pushed back and back and back, but the deadlines are here now. So this past week when I got back home, because I was gone the week prior, before the last session, so this week has just been like catching up. So every day just at my computer, at my desk, grinding on stuff that I have to get finished. So the birthday was mostly that. I did go and buy myself a nice bottle of rum that I wanted. It's called Bamboo Rum. I will be hopefully this next week making a custom leather label for it, but I got a bottle of rum just because I wanted one. I don't drink very often, but I wanted a snazzy bottle of rum. And when I talked to my dad on the phone, he said, make sure you have a nice dinner. And I usually have a nice dinner, but I usually eat my meal preps and whatnot. So I ordered some food. I got ribs from a restaurant not far away. So I had a nice dinner. I think I watched a movie. But during the day, regular day, cutting leather, doing the stuff that I do pretty much every day. That was today too. Cutting leather, designing signatures. That's what I do every day. And then in between that, doing this new stuff that I have. I got a new job, sort of, last week. So I got some new responsibilities and stuff I'm learning to do. Because if you know me, you know that I'm not terribly professional. So I have to learn to be professional. All right, let's get this focus locked off here. Bam! So you guys don't have to tell me to do it. I will remember to do it. Is my suit ready for 20? Of course my suit's ready. Or for 50? Of course my suit's ready for 50. My suits are always ready for 50. The question is, which suit? I have, if we're talking 3-piece suits, I have 5 or 6. I think 6 3-piece suits in a variety of colors and materials and whatnot. So the big decision is just which one am I gonna wear next week? Yep, deadline Mike. Deadline Mike is busy. And he wishes that regular Mike would be a little more on top of things so that deadline Mike wouldn't have to work so darn hard. How does lots of OP practice affect my copper plate? I think once you get an understanding of both scripts, and it could be even more scripts as well. Actually, I'll talk about this for a moment. Because a lot of people say that you should work on one script at a time, or you focus on one script at a time. And I think that is good advice when you're very, very new, when you're first starting out, because the techniques and habits can bleed into each other. But if you've ever taken my class before, or you listen to these lives, you would have heard me talk about not letting habits come into play and making sure that everything you're doing is intentional. And if you're practicing with that in mind, then it's just a matter of remembering that when you do Spencerian, you're doing these certain things and you're conscious of what you're doing. When you do Engrosser script, you're conscious of the elements of Engrosser script. If you find that the elements are bleeding into each other, then it means you're letting habit come into play. You're letting muscle memory and just things just happen by default, which is no good, because that means you're not actually thinking about everything that's going onto the page, and I think that's important. My friend Skylar, Letter Queen on Instagram, he once said that he really thought the more you practice Engrosser script, the more it's going to help your ornamental penmanship, and vice versa. And I agree. Ornamental penmanship teaches flowing movements and things like that, whereas Engrosser script teaches you shading control, and you get like a lot of time manipulation. It's not really referred to in Engrosser script as time manipulation, but that's essentially what you're working on. You're working on those fine controls with your fingers, getting that. So those skills can bleed into each other, and they can apply themselves to the sister forms or to the other script forms. Yeah. So I think the more you practice anything, it helps everything. So long as you are practicing intentionally and you're not letting habits or muscle memory take over. If you are conscious and focused on what you're doing, any practice of any script will help you, because it also trains you to see more things. Maybe there's a script in Engrosser script or there's a stroke in Engrosser script that draws your attention to something you weren't doing in Ornamental Penmanship or something like that. So I tend to disagree with the you have to do one script at a time. Is it easier to do one script at a time? Yes, most definitely, because there's just less to focus on. I think it's good if you're very first starting out to focus on one, but you don't have to master that one before you try something else. You just have to be conscious of the ability of shutting the door on that script and opening the door on the other script. So you try to not let them bleed into each other, which can be a challenge. And to do multiple scripts at once, it will take longer. Zoom you in a little bit more. Oh, my camera is really far away today. Is that too far away? It's a lot higher than normal for some reason. And those are also just sort of my opinions on that. I like to reference video games when I talk about the styles that people are doing, or doing multiple styles. If you think of a video game, like you have your main character, some video games anyways, and he can choose a path, basically. Your main character can be like the swords guy, the melee fighter, or he can be an archer, or he can be a mage, where he can do magic, or he could be a healer, usually. Those are like the 4 classes on average that you get to sort of choose from. And people will normally pick one of those things and work towards them, because that's the one fastest path to getting the skill in something they want. When I play video games, I like to do all of them, if I can, if that's an option in the video game. Sometimes one will sort of be the focus, but I like to do all of them. But I go into that knowing that if I do all 4, it's going to take me way longer than if I were just to do one. But that's just how I like to do things sometimes. So that's how I do calligraphy as well. Obviously, or penmanship, ornamental penmanship is my one main focus, but I like to do everything else in the middle. And I do believe they all help each other. Now, I missed a whole bunch of chatting. I keep dipping and talking, cleaning my nib. Rose hasn't written in days. Shame on you. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Life happens. I haven't either, so there we go. We're in the same boat. I just did a lot of designing. I've been working in pencil a lot this week, but not a lot of ink. What's going on, Aravind? Welcome. All right. The warm-up's feeling like it's gonna be all right today, I think. The hand feels like, or the arm feels like it's in a relatively good mood, which is always a good thing. Ooh. Did I speak too soon? Oh, that one was good. What up, John? All right. This feels okay. I feel like I can just sort of get started. Maybe. Or can I do a capital D? That'll be a good test. How big is my X height? That's a good question. I very rarely measure. Ooh, 2 relatively decent Ds in a row? I should stop now. I should just quit. That's the end of tonight's live. I did 2 decent Ds. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. It's been a great one. I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. Let's see here. Let's measure my X height. I always say 2 millimeters is what I always give when people say, like, what do you normally write at? I say 2 millimeters, but I'm pretty certain when I'm just writing, my X height is smaller than that. But let's find out officially. It's 2 millimeters, maybe 1.5 millimeters? What is it? My head is gonna get in the way of the camera, I think. Well, maybe if I put it right at the bottom of the camera, it won't. Okay, yeah, it's the A, let's go from the H. It's like 1.75 millimeters. Wait, does that measure better in inches? What do we got in inches? Oh, it's a 16th of an inch in inches. Is that a 6? Yeah, 16th of an inch, which is about 1.75 millimeters approximately. My caps to lowercase ratio. Oh gosh. Sure, let's do that. Let me measure one of these D's. Oh, don't get the wet ink. Wait, I need a thinner ruler. I just so happen to have the exact same ruler, but thinner. Oh, this one doesn't have millimeters on it. Darn it. Okay, never mind. I will just lift it up. Wait, how many inches are my capital here? My caps are at about the 1/2 inch range. So, which means my lowercase are 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. But no, these aren't quite. My lines, this is 1/2 inch right now. My ruling on my paper is 1/2 inch. And my capitals are just less than that because they don't go all the way to the top all the time. Where are they? 1, 2, 7. So the ratio of, if we take this D and this lowercase, the ratio is 7 X heights are my capitals. Now that only, ratios like that only work or only look decent if your X height is extremely small. The bigger your X height gets, I would say on average, the bigger your X height gets, the lower you want to reduce that ratio. Like in traditional Spencerian, or the way it's taught in Theory of Spencerian, Penmanship, the old book, the lowercase letters are 3 times, or the capital letters are 3 times the X height. And they sort of say then going from that to ornamental penmanship, 3 to 5 is the range that I usually give as a good place to go, because when you get bigger than that, it can look too big. But I think that's mainly that the capitals, when they start to get bigger, they become unusable. You can't really use them for regular writing when you do giant capitals and really, really small lowercase letters. But if you're doing just regular size capitals like this is less than 1/2 inch. This is the smallest ruling that I use, less than 1/2 inch high. Then if you write with a really, really small X height, the contrast looks quite good and the ratio doesn't look crazy, but technically 7 is what I'm writing at right here. Is that what I always write at? I have no idea because I never pay attention. But that is approximately, that's what my lowercase letters average out to. I would say between what this is today and they're pretty much always under 2 millimeters unless I'm teaching. Nothing wrong with that, Giancarlo. Lots of penmen do that. Lots of penmen back in the day did that as well, where they would use combination movement, where the fingers would come into play a little bit. Cause like it's even when I write, like if I was taking notes with just like a regular pen, I was trying to reach for a fountain pen, but all my fountain pens are in a wrap. It's a little bit farther away. But when I write like regular notes in my like to-do list, like that's the size of my writing. It's my to-do list for my to-do today, which is a very redundant statement. But that's approximately the size that I normally take like sticky notes and to-do lists and whatnot at. And it's about the same. That's about, 1.75 millimeters, approximately. 1.5 millimeters, somewhere around there. So that's just my normal, everything I write kind of ends up being that size. Or that's the size that I like anyways. Oh, that's good to know, Hody. I do have very, very itty-bitty writing. But it's, classic example. Here's my actual, I use a clipboard as my to-do list every day. It's all my old to-do lists are under there that I can go back and reference. But you can see these are the notes that I was taking today. Next to my finger, they are all the same size that I just wrote at. Yeah, tiny. But I've always written really tiny like that. And all capitals, always capitals. I only write lowercase letters when I'm doing cursive. I don't like lowercase printing, so I only utilize lowercase letters when I'm doing penmanship or calligraphy. In regular writing, only capitals. I have no love for non-calligraphic minuscules if they're not penmanship. Like Roman lowercase letters, I don't care. Unless I'm doing calligraphy, then it's different. If I'm doing italics or foundational or something like that. What is this? Calligraphy for ants? It's an ant cake, Mom. That's what you tell her. It's a cake for the ants. They deserve cake. Cake for the ants. Let's come back this way a little bit. This nib is crazy flexible. This is a Leonard Principle, but it feels much more flexy than a Leonard Principle for some reason. Well, where did our advertisements go? No more of those. No more Jesse. I purchased, I don't know if I'll keep it, but I purchased a what's this thing called? Spotify account. So we don't have advertisements anymore. I agree. Jesse printing is unnatural. I dislike it. Always have though. Never been a fan ever since I was younger, I guess. I know definitely I did cursive. When I learned cursive, I wrote everything in cursive until, to my memory anyways, until I learned block capitals in grade, that was until grade 8, 7, 10, can't remember. Somewhere around there in grade school. The only problem with having small writing is when you hand things in school, they look like you did a lot less work than everybody else. Get it? They're ants. That's the kind of practice I do all the time. I end up drawing ants, and usually it's stick people all over my stuff when I'm writing and just goofing off on my own. Quite often. This nib is amazing. I don't understand why it's so flexible. It feels like it's more flexible than it should be. Maybe I just got stronger. Maybe that's what happened. I had ribs. I ate ribs and I got really strong. And now my nib is puny and weak. This nib is no match for my superior muscles. Well, we just lost a bunch of viewers. People don't like strong mic. Yep, you gotta write bigger. I mean, that's the equivalent of today. People will just up the font or up their font size when they're writing. Thank you very much, Mush. Most of the iron galls are black. There are some other colors. I mean, there are plenty other colors. The only iron galls... No, I was going to say the only iron galls I've ever used are black, but that's not true. Because I did have a series of inks from Pusaka that I tested out, that I got from Indonesia. And they were good. I really liked them. I don't have them anymore. I ran out. I used them all. I think one of them spilt when I was traveling, so I didn't have that one, the black one. But I have lots of black ink. And then the other ones I used. And then Bram, the founder of Pusaka Ink, made me some more walnut equivalent navy blue and burgundy inks that I used, and still have lots of that ink. I have to use that more often. Actually, maybe that's what I'll use next week. Maybe next week for our 50th Late Night Live, we'll do a snazzy ink day. Ooh. Snazzy ink day. The burgundy was nice. I gotta make sure, sometimes, as we all know, inks get moldy. It's nothing against the inks, but I gotta check them, because I haven't used them in a while, and if they did get a little bit of mold, I mean, I just need to filter them, which is easy enough to do. I just have to do it. Oh, that was a very upright capital D, but decent shaped. This oval's a bit tight, but not mad at it. Whoa, way too big on the descender there. Yeah, the burgundy ink was really nice. That's what I used. I think that was the first round of the Sig Sling and Sunday challenge that we did. I used the burgundy ink and the navy one. Yeah, Jen, ink gets, depending on the inks, ink will often, if you don't use it for like a really long time, it'll grow like some of them will grow just like a layer on top. And usually you can just kind of scoop it out and throw the layer in the garbage, and then the ink is perfect. But what ends up happening to me, which is a problem, is I don't wait a super long time, so mold will just sort of start. And when mold just sort of starts to grow, there's no real way to scoop it out, because it's just like a powder essentially that's then in the ink, which is why I always filter. If there's a little bit of mold, I'll just filter the ink, and it's easy. Just run it through some. I think I still have some. If not, I'll have to go to the drugstore. But I usually have just like silk nylons, and I'll stretch that over an empty jar, and just pour one jar into the other one really quick. It's easy, super fast, done, filtered, no more ink. If Sumi ink gets a little flaky in water, do you still use it by fixing it? A little flaky? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. What up, Positive World? Qatar in the house. Like flaky as in dry ink? Because dry ink will, depending on the ink, I guess. Does Sumi rehydrate? It might not once it's dry. I can't remember. I don't use Sumi enough. Sorry. Ew. Yeah, mold in your ink it's ew, but I always tell people, if you don't want your ink to mold, use your ink. If your ink is moldy, it means you're not using it enough. Or you're like me and you have too many inks and you only use 2 of them and the other ones just sit in your drawer until special occasions. But it's normal. Mold spores in the air and whatnot. People always talk about, well, you gotta use distilled water and stuff like that when you're thinning your inks, but I don't bother with any of that. If it's gonna mold, the nib and the air in my room is what's gonna probably get to it anyways, even if I use distilled water. If I was thinning, it's another nice decent, not as good as the other ones. If I was thinning, say, tattoo ink, then you would use distilled water, because then that's a contamination issue and it's very different than just writing. But if we're just doing writing, we can get away with a whole heck of a lot. A little flaky after adding some water. If it doesn't rehydrate, you can always, like I say, filter it. Just get a nylon, just a layer of nylon, or what can you use, like a cheesecloth, something like that, just like a really thin cloth, and just give it a filter, and you're good. Then you don't have to worry about it. Get rid of, that's iron gulls will also get that sludge, which a lot of times that sludge won't you can stir it up, but it's not going to re-solubilize, is that the word, into the ink. So you can just pour out the liquid and then rinse out the sludge and you're good. So you can keep using that old ink and just get rid of the sludge or the dried bits that won't rehydrate. Woo! Capital D's are kind of... See that? Man. I'm gonna just stop right there and write one of these quotes. Forget more warming up. Let's just play. I'm gonna take a sip of my tea. goal today. We're gonna finish our tea before it gets cold. That one's pretty good. The shade ends before the baseline. It's on the right angle. Like you can see, this one is the apex of the oval is over here rather than being up here where it should be. That one, it's in the right space. It's got a really nice exit oval. It could come down a little bit more if I was being picky, but that's probably one of the nicest capital D's I've done in a while. Potentially. I did do pages and pages of them after the stream last week. I continued working on the capital D for quite a while. I was very focused on it. But I'm just really relaxed, I think, today, which is nice. Today feels like a day where today and yesterday, I feel like I've been working, doing a lot of computer work, a lot of emails, a lot of designing. And now it sort of feels like when I started calligraphy down at my desk, relaxing after a long day. It wasn't really a long day, I just had a lot of work to do. Oh, Positive World is Ishmael. Good to know. I agree, it is heavy. I don't use it. The only time I use Sumi is sometimes when I need a really archival ink, or if I'm teaching, because it gives me really darker than I would normally like, but it gives me really, really dark hairlines, so my students can see on the video. Because sometimes really fine hairlines, I mean, yeah, it's great to be able to create really fine hairlines, but if the students can't see it on video, or even like if I was at a convention center or something, we would have the document camera onto the screens. If they can't see that projected onto a big screen in a light room, then it doesn't help anybody. So I'll use a dark ink. I will sacrifice my hairline for my students. That's what I do for them. The sacrifices that every teacher must make. All right. Yep, John, you were correct. A lot of people will add gum arabic to fountain pen inks. A lot of fountain pen inks you can use, but they are usually a little bit on the thin side, so people will add gum arabic. It's not something I have a lot of experience with. I don't mess with gum arabic too much. The last thing I did was I was testing out, this is my blacklight ink, I was testing out gum arabic in it, but now it has, the gum arabic has, well, I'll have to use it after it's been sitting for a little while, because the ink is no longer super clear, it's kind of murky. So I'm not sure how what the shelf life of that one is, but all right, well, let's do one of these signatures, or one of the, not signatures, one of these pieces. I guess I'll use this same sheet of paper. I can just scroll down, aka move my paper up a little bit. And then we gotta decide which one. I'm in a crazy mood today, sorry everybody. I feel like super goofy today. What one are we gonna do? So, I posted on the Discord. I will answer. Giancarlo asked on the Discord, Batwing script would be drawn. It would probably he would do the foundation of the Batwing relatively quickly, and then he would probably draw in those big shades, I would guess. But mostly it's a drawn script, I'm pretty sure. But, okay, what do we got here? We got a Bairnsmeyer piece, we got a Brownfield piece, which I wish I had a better picture of the original. This is the Brownfield piece right there. It is gorgeous. And if you ever go to Iampith, one cool thing about this piece, if you go to the convention, there is the Brownfield scrapbook that has this piece in it, and scattered throughout the Brownfield scrapbook, if you see it, I put little page markers in the scrapbook when I found them. I don't know if they're still there, but they should be. In it, I put page markers of sort of scattered throughout the scrapbook. There are attempts at this piece. You can see him like working on it. I guess there's some of the failed attempts, or figuring out the how to space out this flourish at the end. But it's neat. And then you see the final picture, and then it was then printed in the Business Educator, which is really cool. I do have a photo of it, but I don't know where it is. So I'm just using the snap from the Business Educator. If you want to see this one, you can jump on the Discord. It's in the OP chat channel at the moment. But I have also this one, this Rhythm in Writing, that I have the print block for, and I've never tried to duplicate it before, but that's all like Madara script or Signwriter script up at the top. It's a little heavier than Signwriter's, but similar. And then Satvik posted this one, which is a LUP for 1 from Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship by CP Zahner, and I think I'm going to try that one. Relatively simple, but I think we're going to try to duplicate that one first. And if we do a decent job, then we'll tackle some of the others. Oh, John, that's fun. There are some very pretty fountain pen inks out there. Okay. Oh, I have a sneeze coming. I will apologize in advance, but it is coming. There it is. I knew it was on its way. I found what diamine. I had a diamine ink. I had a black. And I bought it because I wanted it to be dry, but it was definitely not dry. The diamine jet black is quite, well, very, very black. It doesn't give me a hairline that I really like in a fountain pen. I've never used it with a dip pen before. My favorite fountain pen ink is Pelikan Edelstein. It's primarily because I like the bottles. Pelikan 4001, that line as well is really good because they write a little bit drier, so they'll give me a nicer hairline. So those are my favorites, 4001 and Edelstein. Okay. Are there white fountain pen inks? I don't think so. There might be, but I don't think so. Most white inks need to be relatively thick to be opaque enough. So I don't believe so. I know there are white rote ring inks for the technical pens, for these guys. Which these pens are amazing. I should do one of these videos. We should do a piece with technical pens, because like they get all sizes. But if you look, the hairline of this one, it's basically you're writing with a needle. This is what I use for when I'm doing section lining or my really detailed lined pieces. It's not quite as fine, obviously, as the nib with iron gall, but it is pretty darn fine. It writes the same as my nib would write with a Sumi ink or something like that. So if you're ever drawing a script and you want complete control, these are great because they you can't get a thicker line with them. They always write the same thickness no matter how hard you press or how slow or fast you go. They're always the same and consistent. That's why draftsmen would use them. You just have to be careful though, because the ink is sitting in essentially a hollow needle, very, very thin, and it can take it can dry. So you have to be careful, because when it dries in there, then you're a pain. And they're very expensive little pens. And if you get one clogged, you can unclog them, but it's quite painful a lot of the time. It's half the time it feels like it's not even worth it. But I love those. Adding that to the list of late night lives for the future. Yeah, I think also something to note, if you are in the market for a rote ring isograph or rapidograph, personally I prefer the isographs because you can refill them. I don't use rote ring ink in a fountain pen, but I buy the big bottle of the rote ring ink, and then I refill them. You can also use them with India ink and stuff like that, but you have to clean them out afterwards because they will dry and they'll permanently ruin the pen if you let it dry in there. But I use the rote ring ink, and you can refill the little cartridges. They look like this. They're just a simple little tube, basically, that you just fill up with either a jar or a syringe is what I use. And they're great. But something that's interesting to note, the 0.1 is the smallest number of rapidograph, but the 0.13, which is a higher number, which means it should be thicker, is finer. The 0.13 is the finest rote ring rapidograph in existence to my knowledge. And then the 0.1 is a little bit thicker, and then they follow the numbers properly after that. But for some reason, the 0.13 is finer. It's like 0. I don't know why they did it that way, and there's very little documentation on the internet that explains that. But I've had a 0.1 and a 0.13 in both the isograph and the rapidograph, and the 1.3 is finer for who knows what reason. But something to note. But they are the most dangerous because ink dries in them very, very quickly. I mean, and like I use a 0.13, and then the next biggest I wrecked my 0.1, so I have to get another one, and then I use a 0.3. And then I have a 0.5, but I don't really use it. That's for filling stuff if I need to fill a bigger area. But I like the fine stuff because I use it for lining. Okay, let's do this piece here. See if I can figure this one out. Let's practice some of these forms first before we just dive in. We have a nice F. If you want to see the piece, like I said, it's on the Discord. You can jump in there and check it out. Yes, rote ring inks are waterproof. I don't know if they're not specifically India inks, I don't think, but they are archival and whatnot, to my knowledge. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me, but I'm pretty sure they are. And they have a white ink. It's not the most opaque though, or so I've seen in reviews. I've never used it. Oh, this is a Lupfer piece, and I don't know if this was engraved or if it was just written immaculately. It's perfect. Very long. Wow, the shade. Look at the shade on this D. It's very long and thin. Interesting. It doesn't match the T's and D's of the rest of the piece. That's curious. I'm not sure why he did that. Well, the inside of the needle is supposed to stick out a little bit. Of anything bigger than the 0.1. The needle will stick out a little bit. Not too much, but it does stick out. Now, I don't know how he does this underlining thing. I'm assuming you could do it really... I've tried to figure this out before. Most people that do it, I think, now in modern times, we would just do this. But I honestly think that when these guys did this back, shook their arm. And I don't know if, like, they just sort of did, can I do it? I don't know if I can do it. Nope, can't do it. I will do it slow. Fozzie's here! What up, new mommy Fozzie? Which reminds me, Fozzie hasn't been here for a while, so we haven't done... You guys were asking for a crystal show-off, which we can do that eventually here. So we're just gonna do this underline slow. I would like to do it quick, but I don't know how to do it quickly. Note to self, this has to go way down here. A lot lower. Okay, noted. Oh, these forms are so flowy. Might also have to do this on landscape or right. a fair bit smaller. How's everything going, Fozzie? How's the baby? No worries, you do your mommy thing. That's, I would assume, relatively more important, a lot more important than late night life. Whoa, giant shade. Way bigger than Lupfer's. I gotta get used to the flexiness of this nib, holy smokes. Okay, pointed on top, round on the bottom. And then he has these long exit strokes that go higher than his X height. Gotta note that. Good to know. We never know. We never know that you're our hero. Ooh. Let's measure here this piece, since I have it on my phone, if my ruler will let me. Curious. What's Lupfer's ratio on this piece? It looks to me similar to mine. It might be 6. 6 times his X height, but let's find out. I mean, we don't need the specific size, but I'm zoomed in here. Sorry, I'll be off camera when I'm doing this. Try to get measuring my phone screen. Alright, so there. His capital stem on my phone right now is 1/2 inch. And his X height is 2 millimeters. Or, sorry, 1/16 of an inch. 8? So his ratio is 8 times his X height. That's even smaller. Holy moly. But yeah, that's his. So his X height is the same as mine. His capital is just a little bit larger than mine was, than I measured. Good to know. Good to know. But the lowercase is the same size as mine. Yay, I do something like Lupfer. Hello, Silvana. Welcome. I finished my tea, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't hot anymore, but it was still warm. It wasn't tepid room temperature yet. So that's something. It's a milestone that we haven't done in a while. Alright, we never know the value. So we gotta rock this all the way out. Okay. You never know. Nice and big. Ooh, that was too big. That was also supposed to be a K, not an H. Yikes. Ooh, wine. Have fun, Aravind. So his lowercase ascender should be about there. We never know the value. If I'm going to be doing a lot of lowercase, I should definitely move my camera. I'm writing a little bit too far away from myself right now. Alright, I'm gonna move the camera ever so slightly so that I can do those lowercase a little bit closer to my body. Let's put it in the right spot. If we're doing lowercase, we want to be right about, yeah, right on the edge of frame is where I want to be. So let's do that. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just so you guys aren't looking always at the edge of my frame. That should do. That should do, I think. Perfect. Hopefully perfect. We'll see. If not, I'll change it again. Ciao, mush. Have a good one. All right. Let's keep this going. Oh, there's no other lowercases, or there's no other, no other capitals. All right, this should be relatively not too difficult then. In theory, what kind of spacing does he got? It's quite wide spaced. Can I go down to 3? I'll try 3. This might look too wide, but we'll try it anyways. Ooh, that was an ugly F. Interesting, he put an exit stroke on his S. They didn't always do that in OP. Happy Pride, Marilyn. Oh, and then we have a capital. Okay. A chill capital. Never good at that shape. Oof, these are not very pretty lowercase letters today. I apologize in advance, everybody. Yes, the shade on the W is much thicker than the F. In the original piece, they are the W. The way he wrote it, the W is slightly thicker than the S, but they're intended to be pretty similar. The way I did it, my shade on my W is way too big. But according to the original that Lupfer did, the F in Friends, the very first one, is the largest of them, and the W is a little bit smaller, and then this F it's shorter, but the thickness is probably about the same. John, your table is above your elbow and it gives you pain. That's no good. Can you sit on a pillow? If I'm understanding correctly. Oh, ascender strokes, my nemesis. We'll have to do some work on those before we finish this, before we actually do this piece for real. We are too sen. His spacing isn't super consistent in this letter, or in this little quote, which is good to note. Proof that they were human as well. Too sentimental. A can be a challenge. All the lowercase letters can be a challenge, in my opinion. I'm not terribly friends with any of them. Sitive. Oh, and of course this is right through the S. Too sensitive to their faults. Oh, bedtime for Jesse. All right, Jesse, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Oh, opted out of using the ending D. All right. When we have, I'm making this line too short, I think. Yep. Too short. There's something in the way Lupfer wrote that I can't make my lowercase letters look like his. I'm missing something. And one of these days, I will figure it out. Maybe. Too thin. We see only... His ascenders were so wide. I need to practice ascenders. Oh, that's the crossing of the T that gets all big. Okay. The T loop is, I mean, it's consistent. In this piece, it changes. Well, they're pretty much the same height. They're pretty much the same size. The main thing it ends up changing is some of them have like a curve here, and then some of them start down below. But the curve on top is pretty similar throughout all of them. The F is obviously different, the capital F. But most of the T's are similar. This last one is a little bit smaller than the rest, but it looks like he was trying to do them all relatively similar, with the exception, obviously, of this last one, which goes into a big, huge flourish. But yeah, the goal is to normally make them be less about the space, I think, and more about just having them be consistent. And then if you have space, you can make them a little bit bigger. When you don't have space for them, that's why you see a lot of just T's crossed with a straight line, because a loop over top would look weird. It would interact with a descender from a above line or something like that a lot of the time. Ooh, that was squishy. Okay, now this ending stroke, which I want to do without rotating my paper. Can I do it? I don't know. Where is it going? From the V all the way around. We'll do this with whole arm. Okay, so it comes all the way over here. This loop is under the space between there and virtues. So that comes around here, and then this shades and goes down under we. Okay. I'm not very good at this shade, so this will take some practice afterward as well. Accent shade here. Gotta remember to do that one. Too much to think about. Okay. Rotate the nib. So notice that I'm just rotating the nib in my fingers like this, so it's sitting a little more vertical, so I can get this sideways, but the movement should still be the same. I'm just rotating the nib so that I can get this ending shade. which I didn't shade at all, basically, which is no good. Hey, Rose. Oh, fun! You're taking the saga? That's exciting. Tell him I say hello. Oh, I'm using Fireball. I should have some water. Hody's in the saga. The saga's gonna be a good time. You guys will really enjoy it. And I'm assuming you should get a good amount of history too. Welcome back, Fuzzy. So I have to somehow, this part is right, that's good. This needs to come up a little higher. This is okay. And then this shade needs to be super thick. I don't know how to do that shade. Right now, face-to-face is quite difficult. But one day, you can come to an Iampith or something. That'll be fun. Or, I mean, Michael Saul travels all over as well. Once we're allowed to travel again. That's good. Alright, let's figure out this shade. I need to... Ascenders and the shade. Let's do Ascenders first. We gotta get comfortable with Ascenders if we have any hopes of doing this piece justice. Nice, wide, Lupfer Ascenders. That's too tall. That's what we want. This is very true. There's nothing wrong with online. It definitely has its benefits. It's 5 a.m. for you, Fozzie? Oofty. Vampire watermelon. Oh, for the saga. Got you. It's like, yeah. Two a.m. That's hardcore, Rose. I appreciate that. I apologize that you have to take class at 2 in the morning. I'm sorry. Oh, no worries, John. Good friends deserve to be able to find you when they need you. That's important. Well, that's no fun, Marilyn. Hopefully you didn't hurt yourself too bad, just some sore muscles. Okay, senders are feeling decent. Now let's figure out this. Let's figure out this ending shade. Ashley Begley, or Ashley Bishop. Now, holy moly! Ladies and gentlemen, a friend of mine, Ashley Begley, just jumped in the chat. This is a friend from my dance world that I met when I first moved to Vancouver back in 2004. We were in a dance company together. Hey Ashley, nice to see you. Thanks for hanging out, Ash. If you're still here or if you left already, I don't really know, but that's fun. I like when my non-calligraphy friends jump into these things. Ooh, pain meds will make you wobbly. That's valid. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe wobbly's good. You can do a test. What do pain meds? What kind of effect do pain meds have on writing? 1:20 p.m. Middle of the day. Right on. Okay, this shade. Now it's really easy to. I mean, I've been over this many times. You can rotate the paper and it's fine. Or you can draw the shades in later and it's fine, but I'm stubborn and I want to be able to do it without all of that stuff. But this stroke, if you guys aren't aware, this is the shade that I'm trying to do right now. And I put the shade in the right spot when I did it up here. It's just an extremely puny shade. And it needs to end right there. I end it a little bit too late most of the time. But it has to get in there. It has to be nice and thick. And I don't know if I've ever actually done it good. It's the same shade that Blozer uses on the end of his signature. And he has basically my favorite signature. And I just can't do it. Oh, so cool, Late Night Live. You hear that, Ash? We're oh so cool around here. Who knew? Alright, here we go. Perfect. I'll take that title. Rose, I'll keep the energy going if you're tired. Okay, here we go. I would do late night lives every night. Sorry for everybody in the Discord that I haven't been using the study room. Has anybody else been using the 24-hour video study room? I haven't been using it just because I've been doing computer work all week. But the goal is to start jumping in there more often. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You guys don't need me to jump in there. Feel free. Get the commands and play whatever music you want in there. And practice. You don't even have to turn your video on. You can just listen to music in there if you're practicing. Then other people can jive out, chill out to music with you. Sapphic, that definitely happens. 2 in the morning has that effect. It just appears. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Maybe if I slow down just a little bit. No! Shaded too late. I think they might have rotated the paper, but I don't think so. They might have, and most people will tell you they did, and most people might be right. But my issue with turning the paper when it comes to flourishes, in ornamental penmanship, the flourishes are most of the time horizontal, and you guys have heard me talk about this before. Like these ovals are they're horizontal. So all these lines, they're all based on like the horizontal plane. So when you flourish, your hand gets used to doing like these horizontal ovals and loops. And what happens though, if you turn your paper and doesn't have to be a lot, but if I turn my paper, then my hand is no longer my arm, which is propelling, because I'm not drawing all these forms. My arm is propelling all these shapes. I'm no longer using that same movement. If I do that same movement, I end up with an oval that is obviously, if I go back to normal, it's super droopy down this way. It's not horizontal at all. So if I rotate my paper, yes, I can get that shade angle a little bit better. But then what happens is I have to utilize more of a pushing, pulling motion in my flourish creation. So I have to go over like this, which I can do. But for me, that's even still, like even when I did that, the difference between these ovals, which are very nice and horizontal and all match, they match all the ovals of the body of writing. When I come down here, this one is more horizontal, but it's still slightly different. It doesn't look like the oval matches. And the difference can be very, very slight, but the problem is I see it. And as soon as I see it, I want to fix it. So I will try as often as I can to flourish and do everything with the paper the same way. The reason they definitely rotated paper and stuff when they did birds is because when you're flourishing birds, the flourishes go around the design. They're not based on a horizontal plane. So like with a bird, we all know I'm not very good at doing birds. But as an example, I won't do a full bird, but if I had a straight pen, the movements you use in flourishing are throwing the shade away from you, right? So you take that same shape, I can go like this. Oh, come on. Give me ink, please. I can do like this wing here, and then I can do the lower wing, and then I could do another wing up here. I could rotate, oh, I'm not even on frame, sorry. I could rotate my paper a little bit, do the other one, do the little wings in there. Like you can do all that, but when I rotate the paper, like for example, to get the tail of the bird, if I were to go here, like I rotated the paper because that oval has to sit on this plane. So I'm rotating the paper so that my ovals, my flourishes are always happening the way that my muscles want to create them. So if we have like the tail of the bird, we have that type of a shape coming out of the end. That shape is that motion is the same as this motion. But if I rotate the paper when I'm doing a lettering flourish, it changes the orientation of those ovals. And I see it in a lot of work. Not a lot of vintage work, but when I see a lot of modern penmen and modern people doing movement writing, when they rotate the page too much, I see the rotation and I don't want to see the rotation. So I'm trying to not rotate. That's sort of my whole philosophy around it. I'm stubborn, and I would rather deal with a thinner shade than an oval that looks like it's on wrong orientation or on the wrong angle, because that is not okay for my eye. Gits. There, I didn't do a full bird. The bird is not going to get a face. Maybe we'll do birds. I don't want to do birds for the 50th live, but maybe we'll do birds after that. This actually looks pretty decent. My last attempt at doing birds, I think, was laughable and ridiculous. I'm certain I can do a better job than last time we did them here. Alright, Ash, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. It's nice to see you, and have a pleasant evening. Sweet dreams. Get a fresh sheet of paper here. Nope, that bird doesn't get a beak or an eye. Sorry. bird book, the Ornate Pictorial Flourishing, or Gems of Flourishing. It's a good one. Well, that's fun, Fuzzy. What paper am I using? Today it's very similar to Rhodia. This is actually Martha Scribe's paper. She got it and had it cut down to 8.5 by 11 to letter size for me when I was in Singapore last. And I took a bunch of it home with last? Maybe the first time I went to Singapore, I can't remember. But I got a whole bunch of it, and I've been slowly going through it. I'm currently searching for a good, cheaper paper, just for practice. Because I really like this paper. It's really good paper, but I need like a throwaway paper. I don't need the hairlines to be perfect, but just a good paper for practice. I usually use the Staples 733333 paper, but lately I haven't been liking it for some reason or another. I don't know if they changed it or if I just got pickier. Oh, hey Warren, thank you very much. Welcome to the live. Yeah, I want loose leaf because I want to be able to buy it by like 500 sheets at a time if I can. Okay, here we go. We gotta get this shade. I'm gonna take out the extra loop in the beginning and I'll do it like Blozer does it on his signature. It's just getting used to when to apply the pressure. It's the same as this one. The key to doing that shade, because it's really easy to, if you can put the shade too early, or you put the shade too late. I ran out of ink, but or you can put the shade too late again. So you're on the bottom there. And the key is in that fraction of a second to apply the weight in exactly the right spot. So as you come around, you apply the weight. That's too early. And that's what happens to me. I get this little kink in here because I panic. I freak out when it's time to do the shade. So I get that little in there instead of a smooth oval. James, or Himasf, HIMASF on Instagram. James, are you here lurking today? I haven't seen a comment from you, so I don't know if he's in the chat today. But James does this shade really good in my opinion. I have always had trouble with the placing of it. That's pretty much right. So you're starting there, ending there, and the shade is going out in that sort of direction, out thicker in the middle. That's the goal. Now this other one on Blozer's signature is basically the exact opposite, except where this one is more possible because you're shading a pull stroke and it's coming down towards you, which a nib wants to do. When you do the one in Blozer's signature, you are going up and away from you. And then Blozer does it really long and really thick, which is why, like if you're doing this one slow, rotating your paper is probably the best way to go. But if you're using movement writing, I mean, you can do it by rotating the paper. I just personally really want to be able to do it without. I'm using, sorry, you asked what ink I'm using. Today I'm using Blott's Iron Gall ink for my practice. Take that, birds. No nesting for you in the yucca trees. Okay, let's see if we can, let's just go for it. Just getting used to the timing. Shade, 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 shade. Gotta rotate my nib and then do that same movement. Like, that's the idea. That's close. I mean, it's got a kink in it right there. But that is the idea. When Blozer does it, it's pretty much straight across. And then it fades off at the end when it tapers to a hairline. I actually have to use the restroom. I will be right back. Yeah, Warren, Iron Gall's the way to go. If you want the finest of the finest hairlines, you're probably going to get them with Iron Gall. There are some stick inks that will do a really good job as well, but Iron Gall's what you want to go with. I will be right back. I have returned. I really wish I would have made a thermos of tea, because now I don't have any more tea. Okay, now, that was not bad for a first shaded attempt here. Let's keep that going. If I can get used to this, I would love to unlock this shade completely and just be able to do it all the time. Similar to how, like, this first one that I did up here. I can't get it perfect all the time, but I can usually get it decent enough that it doesn't look bad. And that's what I need this shade to look like. Decent enough so it doesn't look bad. So I can just throw it in without thinking too much about it. Doing it with whole arm movement, which means my entire arm is off the paper. Nib is rotated all the way up so that I can get that shade without any resistance. I've got a nib snap right off the bat, which wasn't very friendly. I might have rotated too much on that one. Like, that's the idea. I feel like a lot better than I have ever really done it. Ooh, shaded too soon. Okay. Got too excited. Okay, let's try the one from this one, which has... What's the loop look like? Okay, one loop and then across. Does the nib get scratchy? I mean, if I'm rotated this way, the only scratch that I'm getting is really on this first from here to about here is the scratchiness, because that's then, as far as the orientation of the nib, that's the push stroke. And when I'm rotating, my nib is very, very vertical. So what I'm actually trying to do, I'll try to show with my hand here. I'm trying to come up like that, but then I'm taking my grip down this way a little bit, just to lower the steepness of the nib, so that it's not quite as up and down. So I'm taking my hand like this, I'm rotating the nib up like this, but then I'm rotating my hand down just a little bit, so pushing my knuckles even farther to the left so that I can take down the steepness. I wanted to say step. The steep, not a word, but that's okay. You guys know what I'm talking about. Let me zoom out since I'm doing a flourish. This is quite large. There we go. All right. That's the idea. I just get so timid. I get scared applying that shade. I just need to go for it. All right, Marilyn, good night. Take care of yourself. Hopefully you're not too sore tomorrow. That's the idea. Hey. It's not really a party song. I suppose this is pretty chill, but that's good. I'm happy with that. The big difference between theirs and mine is this travels farther this way, and this loop has to be a little bit bigger. Well, and their shade is a little bit bigger, but I can work on that. So I just have to be brave. Just gotta be brave. Just gotta go for it. Attack it. Just attack it. Rah. Here we go. And bring this farther to the left. Okay. Nope, shaded too soon. Gotta not do that shade till I'm down there already. It's so easy to shade that downstroke because we're used to doing like cascade shades where we always shade the bottom part. So it's counterintuitive to not put a shade in that area. But that's habit coming into play. And as we know, we don't let habit rule what we're doing. We rule what we're doing. Okay. That was absolutely not right. I got distracted by this little loop. My brain said, oh, that was a nice loop. And then it forgot everything else that came after it. Okay. Come on, brain. Focus. Better. Too timid, but better. Let's do that same thing with a little more attack. Lift my chair ever so slightly for whole arm. Not enough, and I held on to the shade too long. That timing. Ooh, that was decent. That was what we wanted. That's the idea. Let's do that again. You just gotta breathe, relax, and focus on your timing. Just like dance. Too late. Held on to it too long. Ow. that one's the best one so far, we'll give it a happy face, because that's what we do. Also decent. We got the taper in the right spot at the end for sure. We're getting there, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting there. Shoot, too late. I keep getting caught up thinking about what's going on in this first part. And then by the time I realize I'm not paying attention to what I'm supposed to be, it's too late. Oof. Alright, Sadvik, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Nobody in my time zone watches these late night lives. The only people that watch are in other time zones. It's a really rough time. Should I change the time of my late night live? What do you guys think? Are they late night lives if I don't do them late at night? Not too bad. Gloria says, Rose says no. Alright. Oh, just when he says no. It's perfect for you guys. Well, that makes sense because you guys are always here. That's the idea. Alright. Let's go for it. Close enough. This is the best of those shades that I feel like I've ever done. Every time I do one, I say I need to practice them, and I never really do. This doesn't really count as practice because I still only did like 7 or 8 of them, but, well, maybe more than that. 10, 12? I should do a day's worth of just them over and over again to really get that muscle feeling in my brain. But, okay. Let's do this piece. Perks of being veterans. You guys get to call the shots. Is that how that works? Oh, here, I'll do a really quick show and tell. Since Fozzie's here, because we were talking about this before. So this is my Labradorite. Can I get it to show in the... Oh, this camera, I don't know if it'll show the blue. I should be able to get it to show down here somewhere. Come on. Where's the blue? There it is. There we go. There it is. Yeah, there's this lower half glows, and then this part in the middle is a little bit dull. But this whole side glows at the right angle. And then the back as well. There's a lot of glowy bits on the back, but I can't get them to get in the light. They're smaller, sort of scattered. It's mainly this one section is my favorite bit. But the blue Labradorite is my favorite. But it's my giant, yeah, huge. It was a gift from an employer of mine a number of years ago. It was my first gem. Really? I had some smaller bits. Where's everything else here? And then this is my selenite wand, which is quite long. It's my selenite wand. What is that, like 14 inches-ish? And And then right now, the selenite wand is how I display my the Zenarian clear holder that I made. And it makes me, feels like Superman's, what's it called? What's it called? I can't remember what Superman calls it. Something of Solitude, Fortress of Solitude. But so it's up on the bookshelf. And then if I need to charge a crystal, I put it on here and I'll put it out in the sun. That's my giant selenite wand. And then what else do I have? I have this tiny little piece of Labradorite. Also blue Labradorite. It's flat on one side because it was obviously ground to make jewelry. But it sits in, you know that weird little pocket that nobody has any use for? This little pocket right there. I'll put that in there in the flat part against my body. But I'll carry that one around in my pocket quite often just to have it. I used to have another one that was round on both sides. But unfortunately, when I took my jeans off and I was folding them, it fell out of the pocket and it cracked. I have both pieces. They're on the other side of the room. And then this one, which is... What is this called again? Fozzie, you were talking about this one the other day. A countertop made of Labradorite? That is dope. Rose, yep, I have a holder that is swirly. I can show that one. Citrine, yeah, that's that one. I read something somewhere, and citrine had something to do with creativity. So I was like, yeah, I want citrine. And then I like the look of it raw. So a lot of my crystals are raw and not turned at all, just chunks. Like my selenite, Labradorite looks much better when it's polished. When it's refined. I want a piece like this that's just slightly rounded on both sides though eventually. I want all the Labradorite because I love Labradorite. The more blue Labradorite I can acquire, the better. But those are my main ones. I also have some small, there's some tiger eye up there. And what else? What else do I have to show? I don't actually know where normally I take it off when I'm writing, but I have a shungite mala or bracelet that I wear. And I also have this one, which I can't remember what crystal is, what these are, what gem this is. It looks like blue laced agate, but I don't know if that is actually what it is. I have to ask my sister. She got this for me a number of years ago. And it's tighter than the shungite one. So I'll wear the shungite one, and then I'll wear this one in front of it, so it stops the shungite one from coming down or moving, I'll wear the shungite one on the other side of this one, so it stops it from going up my arm, because the shungite one is a little too loose. I have to take it apart and retie it. But yeah, those are my gems. Not a lot of them, but they're fun. I just like my giant Labradorite one. Oh, Warren, no, there are lots of people who are focused on ornamental penmanship. Many, many, many. They're just oftentimes harder to find. But there's quite a large community of people that are extremely good. Yeah, it does look like blue lace agate. The headless birdie, yeah. Sorry. I didn't feel like doing a head for it. Maybe I will one day. We will do a bird late night live, and I will do that one. Alright, let's get this piece out again. We will work on replicating it yet again. Now I took a crystal break. Now I can't write at all. One of these days, I'll I'll learn how to do birds. I'm not a huge fan of... I like looking at the bird flourishing, but I'm not a huge fan of doing it myself. So I've never really tried it very much. It's not something I've experimented with. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do it relatively decently after some practice, but yeah, Ishmael is, yes, the Chinese community, there are some people who are extremely good. A lot of people. There's a pretty big group. Okay, here we go. Starting with an F. Wait, should I do this in landscape? Yep. I'll do this one in landscape. Should I? Nope, we're gonna go normal. Nope, we're gonna go landscape. I can't make up my mind today. Indecisive. Bird night. One day maybe. It might be quartz. I know very little about most of the crystals. The only one I really know about is the Labradorite. I'm not very knowledgeable. Okay, about the middle of the page. Here we go. Ugh. Rough start right off the bat, darn it. And I will turn my paper to do this little slow motion, this slow. Because I don't know how to do it fast. Oh, it's a little crooked. Zoom in a little bit. And lock focus. Lapis lazuli. Oh, that, yeah, maybe. Using those apps is quite a challenge when you don't speak Chinese, unfortunately. It's possible, but it's quite a challenge. Okay, we're writing crooked, but that's alright. Okay, we gotta chill out the size of this shade just a little bit. That's better. Because it was slanted, or just Winnie. Yeah, the W came out pretty nice. Oh, I might be off center. Shoot. Yep, I'm off center. Darn. Well, this will not be a finished piece then because it's off center. Oh, let's put in the quotation marks. Okay, this H has to just be, yeah, got it. I'm writing too big, I think. Well, that one was spaced good. Decent anyways, I wasn't writing too big. Good, good, good. Too sensitive. Okay, crossing this T is something I messed up last time. Up too much at the end. Oops, too big. Too big on the T. Vintage Nibs, I haven't read the rest of your comment yet, but I will say right away, Vintage Nibs are 100% overhyped. But let me now read the rest of your comment. Warren. Are Vintage Nibs overhyped over the modern ones, or is it like nostalgia? So, Vintage Nibs are overhyped. Are Vintage Nibs better than modern Nibs? There are a few Vintage Nibs that are better than modern Nibs. Like what are they called? Dr. Joe gave them the name. I dislike the name, but the Dream Points. Like the Gillot Principality, the Zenarian Fine Rider, which are just the same nib, the Muscleman Perfection, all the nibs that live in that family are extremely, extremely expensive right now. If you can find them, they're quite difficult to track down, and the fineness and the quality control of them was higher than what we have now. And the materials that were used to make them, I feel like were sometimes better quality than what we have now. Vintage nibs, like the vintage Gillot 303, for example, if you use them with iron gall ink, they're gonna just die. They don't hold up very well. They write really nice when they're writing, but they don't hold up super, super well. Are the nibs that much better than the modern nibs? No. I genuinely don't believe so. I was just using a Zenarian Fine Rider the other day. Was it a Fine Rider? Or a Gillot Principality? Can't remember. One of them. I think it was a Fine Rider. I didn't like it. It was stiffer than the Leonard Principal I was using. The hairline was super, super fine and it was really nice. But that's when I got my loop out and my micro mesh and I just refined the point of my current Leonard Principal that I was using to match or to give me a quality line. The snapback is really good on the vintage nibs, but I will say to get the most or to really feel a big difference between a vintage Dream Point and a good modern nib, you have to be really, really good. And I feel like I'm pretty darn good at ornamental penmanship, and I have zero need to use the vintage nibs. They don't make a big enough difference in my writing. I don't feel a big enough difference. They're nice to write with sometimes, but like Spencerian 1, Gillot 604EF, I don't even like using them. I've used them before. A lot of them I'm not a fan of. They also had different degrees of like what batches they were. They're not all the same. So it's a gamble, and I don't think it's worth it to play that game personally. Would it be awesome if we could convince the current manufacturers of nibs to somehow manufacture something that would get to that quality? Is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? I'm not sure. Is there demand for it and a reason for companies to do it? I don't know. It might not be worth the work that has to go into it to make it happen. But yeah, I think vintage nibs are extremely overhyped. They're good, but if you can't get a Leonard Principal or a Hunt 101 or a Gillot 303 looking good, there's no point using a vintage nib because the difference is negligible. In my opinion, anyways. I mean, I have boxes of Spencerian number 1s, and I don't like them. I'll probably sell them one day at a convention or something because I don't see myself using them because I'm just not a fan. I would rather use my Leonard Principles and my Hunt 101s, personally. I like the way they write better. They need a little bit of tuning sometimes, but that's why I learned how to tune them. Oh no, not a good sender. Can spend their money on what they want. I don't hate on people spending a lot of money on nibs if they want to. What I really hate is when people do it thinking they need to. Thinking that you're only going to get good work if you use those nibs and stuff, and I think that's very, very, very false. But I am quite outspokenly sort of not anti-vintage nib, but anti-vintage nib hype, I guess, because I just don't see the point personally. My T's are shaded very inconsistent in this little piece. Oh! C has 2 E's, not we. Whoops. There's, well, spelling mistake number 1. It was inevitable. Hey, Karina. Good morning. Well, pressure's off. I made a spelling mistake, as I always do. That's what I should do. I should replicate all the old amazing pieces and make spelling mistakes on all of them. Intentionally, though. So they're perfect replications, but things are spelt wrong. That would be fun. For me, anyways. Ooh, that's an ugly ascender too. Get it together, Mike. Too high. Ugh, ugly oval. Okay, now is the time where it really matters. We gotta get this shade. Okay, where does it go again? Starts at the V, cuts through this ending bit after the period, and that's to come back all the way to the R. Okay. Pressure's on. Stress. No, they're definitely not an investment, in my opinion. If you want one for your collection, then, I mean, you can find one that way, but it's not something worth investing in my opinion. I think you'd be better off investing time into refining, I guess, the tip of your existing nibs, like a Leonard Principles or Hunt 101s. And then I'll keep working on trying to convince the factories to give me something that I want. And hopefully one day we'll get there, or the next generation will have dope nibs. Okay, we just gotta do it. Just do it. I wussed out. That nib snap made me nervous. This first bit is pretty much exactly what I wanted, and I wussed out. So I'm gonna draw in the shade thicker to make it look nicer. Just a little bit. Cause I chickened out. I dislike drawing shades like this, but it's what a lot of the old penmen did. A lot of them, I mean, refining work was a real thing. A lot of them did it for printed work. The shape worked. Yeah, thank you. I should take this opportunity to say, sorry, my head's probably in the video. I should take this opportunity to say that I know you guys will hear me on videos like, oh, crappy this, crappy that was bad, that was whatever. I don't beat myself up over my writing. I'm very happy and proud of my writing. I'm very critical of my writing, and I do want my writing to be a whole lot better. But you will hear me say, "Oh, that was crappy." That comes out of my mouth, but I don't feel crappy about that. I don't beat myself up. It's not worth the energy. Critique without the negative energy applied to it or that goes along with it. Also, I made that way too big. This could just be like, it went the right width, but I went down too low. Noted. I can make this whole thing quite a bit smaller. But there's the whole piece. It didn't turn out too bad. I'll have to do that one again when I'm chilling a little bit. Because that wasn't too shabby. Yeah, I want to practice that shade more. I'm not going to do this piece again today, but I do want to practice that shade more right now. While I'm in the mood for that. See if I can't do a better job. Yes. Non-negative critique is very important, especially if you're going to be highly critical of your work, especially if you're trying to learn movement writing, because it's insanely hard. And if you're critical on yourself when you're doing something insanely hard, you're going to get depressed. And nobody wants to be depressed. So you take it in stride, enjoy the process. Also, if you're not practicing like an hour or longer every single day, dedicating focused study and practice time, 30 minutes minimum a day, every day focused, if you're not doing that, you also have no right to be unhappy with your own work. I have not dipped a nib in ink, oh gosh, since last Tuesday, since last video, because I was busy doing computer work all week. I've done a lot of design work with my pencil, but I haven't actually done any writing since last week. So I'm not allowed to be unhappy with myself because I haven't put in the work. Last week, or the week, sorry, I guess it was last Wednesday. I did write a bunch last Wednesday. I worked on capital D's. And earlier today, I did some really, really nice capital D's, and I was very proud of those. That's the way it should be. Be proud of your successes and chill out on your failures, because they're not really failures, they're just open doors. Or they're doors, what's a cool analogy? Not open doors, they're unlocked doors. We just haven't gone through them yet. They're potential adventures that we get to go on. You're good for the week. If you did one good capital D, you can take the week off. You're good for the week. Breathing control? I don't know that I would call it breathing control. I remind myself to breathe, and you'll often hear me before I do like big strokes. I will take a long breath, and that is primarily to relax myself, because contrary to what it feels like, because you want to control it, but if you're doing this style of writing, the more relaxed you can be up here as well, not just your body, but if you can relax your body and relax your mind, it's going to come out better. And even if your forms are messed up, the lines are going to come out better, and it's going to feel better when it comes out. So the more relaxed you can be, which is why you'll hear me take that breath. But remembering to breathe is very important, I think. Holding your breath is not healthy, for one thing, because we need to breathe to live. I read this a while ago, and I thought it was just a fun little thing. So people are like, oh yeah, people live for like 70, 100 years. No, human beings have 2 minutes to live. We have a 2-minute lifespan. But if we breathe, we reset the clock. Our life clock is 2 minutes long. I mean, some people potentially a little longer than that, but how fun is that to think about? We have a 2-minute life clock. And every time we breathe, we reset our clock. If we don't breathe, our clock turns off, or our clock runs out, which is that part's a little morbid to think about, but don't hold your breath. I mean, that's in anything you do. You just don't hold your breath, unless you're swimming. Hold your breath if you're swimming. Breath is helpful. Breath is just a fun quote about breath. Breath is life. I mean, if we don't breathe, we die and things like that. But if you ever study mime or animation or something, the key to turning an animation, if you create a little character or a doll and you film him moving, if he doesn't have breath or the appearance of breath, he doesn't look alive, right? It's the breath is what fills the body with movement and ability. I once trained mime with a man who trained like Disney and Pixar animators, because it's really easy to make an animation sort of stale and not have life. And you can get the organic movement and everything good, but it doesn't look like it's living until you add the sort of essence of breath. Breath is what makes things look alive. So we study that in mime, because you can't talk, and so your breath needs to be in your movement. Your movement has to come from a place of basically from your core, where the breath creates the movement, which is interesting exercises, interesting little things. But breath is important. Breath is life on a deeper level than just if we don't breathe, we die. There's more to it than that. Okay, I need to make this shade. I know I default to this one all the time. You guys see me do this shade way too much, but I want that shade to be large. And all I should have to do to make it large is be aggressive. Be aggressive. Yeah, and just do that. There we go. Now we just have to ward off this bubble that happens on the right hand side when we be aggressive with this stroke. We have to be aggressive, but also get the traffic right. Get the traffic is probably the wrong word. The travel, the path. Bigger. That's better. Bigger. Be aggressive. Ah. Oh, nope. Ruined our shape there. Bigger. Shorter though. That's better. Okay. Now let's, just for fun, let's get that shade. We'll work on that timing. Rotate our pen, tip our hand a little bit, and like so. Ugh. Rough entry bit right there. That's sort of what Blozer's looks like. His doesn't follow the regular, Spencerian shade. Is shaded kind of like that. But his signature shade that he does on the bottom doesn't follow that same rule. It's more of a straight line, like this. So it has this long hairline at the bottom. And it starts there and ends there. So that's decent. But we have to get to the point where we can do that on purpose. All the time, every time. We didn't have James lurking in the chat today. I wonder what James is up to. Gotta round out that ending just a little bit more. That's the idea. Sorry, I was out of frame there. I gotta move myself way over here so that I can write in frame. Doing whole arm. Actually, these are... I'm using forearm movement for these because they're smaller than the piece we were doing. Fozzie, you can't swim? I don't believe that. Everybody can swim. Oh, that's normally what I do when I try this shade. I shade too late and too long. That's better. That's what we want. But can't swim and don't like swimming are two very different things. Yes. I think the straight pen and the oblique holder make a difference in flourishing. Here, let me do a couple more of these and I will explain why I think they make a difference. I think you can do both with either, but I'll explain my reasoning there. Okay, let's do one big one. Go for it. Super big. Super thick. Thick shade. Here we go. Ooh, not bad. Hairline could have been a bit longer at the end, but... Fear it makes it a problem. So for flourishing, specifically in flourishing, you don't use this grip when you're flourishing. When you're doing letter flourishing, you do, but in offhand flourishing and whatnot, you use a flourishing grip, which is like so. And the thing with the flourishing grip, because it's the same type of reason as why we use an oblique holder for writing. It's all about getting the angle of the pen, the angle of the nib going along your writing. So when I'm doing it a shade this way, I want my nib to be this way. Regularly, I'm on a 52-degree slant line, so I want my shade to be going this way. When I use a straight pen, obviously my nib is at a weird angle. But if I use a flourishing grip, I would be here and my nib would be coming out this way. So I would be creating the shade along this line. I would be throwing that shade. So I'm doing this. Now the issue with that with an oblique holder is you see the angle that my nib is at versus the angle of the line I'm going at. So that wouldn't really work. I would be creating a jagged edge. Now what I could do is hold my pen this way. Like I could crank it farther to the left, but that's less of a comfortable grip. What I'm doing when I'm rotating the oblique holder farther that way to get my nib in the right orientation, I'm bringing my pinky finger and the rest of my hand, like I have to rotate it over so it ends up getting closer to my writing. So I'm going to increase the risk of getting my fingers drawing through the wet ink on the page. Whereas if I were to do that with a straight holder, I would be doing this. My fingers can stay over here. They can stay out of the way, and I can flourish this way without having to bring everything closer and without clocking this that way like you'd have to do with an oblique holder. So that is the reason why flourishing is done with a straight pen. All that being said, I don't do basically any traditional thrown offhand flourishing. It's not something in my wheelhouse. Will I learn it one day? Probably. I'll probably dive in and figure it out one of these days, but it's not something I do a lot of. I've done it in the past, not to a great degree. But that's my understanding of it from what I've seen and in my own limited experience with it. It just makes sense more. Just like with writing, it's basically the same as with writing. We have our slant. I obviously can't do my stem shades and stuff with my pen this way. If I were to alter my grip, and nobody really does this, but if I were to hold the pen, let's say I changed my grip to this super ugly pen grip like that. If I were to hold the pen this way, and if I was utilizing movement writing, I wouldn't be able to use the grip technique for my shades, but I could still use, I could write the way I would with an oblique holder. So I could do that. Or alternatively, you could kink your wrist, which is what people do with fountain pens, I feel like. Or you could turn the paper a whole lot, and you could learn to write this way. Now the problem that comes into play when you do that, if you turn your paper a whole lot to write with a straight pen on the 52-degree slant line, that again, like what we were talking about earlier with my reluctance to rotate the page for that stroke that I was working on, now my normal ovals are, I have to do, again, more push-pull for my regular horizontal ovals versus the way I like to do them, the way I'm comfortable doing them. But you totally could. This is something that if there's any left-handed people here or watching, this is a bridge that left-handed people have to cross. Because unlike right-handed people, who pretty much all hold the pen relatively the same, left-handed people are all slightly different. So they individually have to experiment with the different grips that they can use and what they're comfortable changing, and the different paper angles that they can try, and different combinations of that to find what works for them. It's always going to be different. Luckily for a right-handed person, there are less ways, because most of us do it relatively the same. But for a left-handed person, that's what they have to do. All left-handed people, some use left-handed oblique, some use a regular right-handed oblique, some use a straight pen, all depending on which combination of paper angle and holder and grip feels the most comfortable to them. It's all different. Crooked tripod hold, yep. One is just like if I wanted to do, you can change your grip to do pretty much anything. Like classic example is this stroke here. This shade that I was working on, it doesn't work for the way a nib is built with an oblique holder. I can't get that shade, like if I apply weight and go that way, that's the exact opposite of the direction that my nib wants to shade at. So I can alter my grip, and this is a personal choice. You can alter the paper, you can alter your grip, or you can alternate the holder. You could grab, maybe a different holder would do this right for you. Nope. Unless you had a holder that was like super cranked this way. So you can do what's then pen manipulation. You can rotate this way. I can change my grip ever so slightly. A little bit, you can see in the video a little bit, it ends up getting a little bit of a wrist kink, slightly, not a lot, but a little bit to get my nib going sideways, so that then I can use the same movement that I'm used to, the same movement that I'm training all the time in my writing to do this thing without having to introduce a completely new axis of movement into my writing. Some penmen can do the things on all axes and angles, so they can rotate the paper and do everything, and it's great. And kudos to those people. I don't like to rotate the paper, so I train to do everything on one axis. It doesn't mean that the way I'm doing it is smarter or better than the way they're doing it. The way they're doing it might very well be smarter or better than the way I'm doing it, but I like not rotating my paper, and I like the comfortability of flourishing the way I'm used to flourishing, like so, with my nib rotated and my hand changed slightly, just for that one stroke. And then I can go back to normal for everything else, and my lines will all look like they match. They'll just be one shade that was created in a magical way. And who doesn't want their writing to look magical? Ugh. My exit oval has been, you see this flat top shape. Every time I've done this one and stopped today, it has this flat top on it. For some reason. And I don't know why. It's quite bizarre. See, I did it again. Flat top up there. Why? Cut it out. Cut it out, hand. Stop creating things like that. That's better. Oftentimes, things like that, those subconscious little habits or quirks that we get into happen because of stress. Not like bad stress, but when you do a shade and if what's coming up is an interesting part, or for here we're anticipating this cutoff, so we're getting here and then this is me guessing, but it seems like I'm getting up here and then going anticipating getting into that stop, and it's creating this flat top on the top there, rather than relaxing, breathing, and getting a nice oval shape, which I know that I'm able to create because it's an oval and I've written probably billions of them by now. It's a nice oval. There's no reason that I shouldn't be able to relax and just go and just get a nice, oh, I did it again, but just get a nice oval on the top there and stop. There's no reason that I shouldn't be able to do that. But for some reason, the brain likes to go at certain points. So that's oftentimes to students and whatnot, I will say, don't throw away your exit stroke or something like that. And that's what that refers to. Because, well, you're not fully attentive. Attentive? Maybe the wrong word. We're not fully focused or fully paying attention to a stroke. We finish the hard part, and then we go, which is what happens here. We finish the shade, which is the hard part, and then we go, we relax, and then we stress out about what's coming next, and then we mess up that middle part instead of just being smooth, rotating smooth there, and then just applying weight to finish that off cleanly. That's my breakdown of why I do it anyways. Again, stop it. It's always a nice oval when I continue through. Which doesn't make sense. I gotta get used to doing that one. It's all mentality hacking. You change what you think about, and when you think about it, it changes how you write things. Or so it seems. There we go. Better. Whoa, what is happening? This is your arm. Telling you something. Yep. This is my arm telling me that it is tired. The fact that I can't do a decent oval out of a compound curve stem tells me that my arm is feeling done and I don't feel like forcing it. So I think that's where we're gonna end tonight. I do believe we had a pretty good attempt at that friend's poem. I'll take a picture of that one and post it on Instagram tomorrow, and then I will try it again. Maybe I'll try to write it tomorrow. Hopefully I can get most of my computer work done in the next couple days so I can get back to my pen. Ooh, my stomach is also very growly. I need a quarter to midnight snack. We practice with slanted figure 8 warm-up instead of straight line and ovals. That's good. That's great for if you're having a day where you're working on your capital S's or capital L's. The figure 8 warm-up will be perfect for you. I gotta go just when my arm just doesn't want to write. Eat your snacks. I don't have any snacks close by, nor have I bought snacks. I think I need to... Oh, I'm gonna pop some popcorn. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pop some popcorn and maybe watch a movie. Or pop some popcorn and do some work. We'll decide. Fried hash browns. Oh, I don't have any ingredients to make fried hash browns. We're in the course of my meal or week where it's grocery shopping day is tomorrow, so I have very little options for food. I could make a sandwich, but I don't want to eat any more bread today. I think popcorn is the way to go. I think that's what's gonna happen. Popcorn, maybe another cup of tea, not really sure. What else do I have? I don't want a bowl of cereal. Yeah, maybe just popcorn. Fried anything. Just put anything in the fryer. That's true, you can fry pretty much anything. But, ladies and gentlemen, tonight was fun. There we go. There's what we accomplished earlier. Looks pretty good when it's zoomed out like that. Needs a little bit of work. I will refine it. I cheated on the ending shade, as you guys well know. Yeah, of course, popcorn with chopsticks. That's the only way to eat chopsticks. If you eat popcorn with anything but chopsticks, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. I've decided. Anyways, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, everybody. Don't forget that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. I did that backwards. Wait a minute. Rewind. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you are falling in love with the process. And don't forget that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. Good night, everybody.